Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we will be talking about the 2025-2026 Toronto Maple Leaf season. I don't know, where do I even begin? This team has been just disappointing from the beginning of the season. You come in with high hopes and they've just been flat all year, and there's really been nothing good to watch with this team outside of the Olympics. And the players that went there, there's been nothing good to watch with this NHL team. So in this video, we will be covering a couple deadline moves I would do if it were me being the Toronto Maple Leafs general manager. And then I'm going to be doing something fun as well. We'll be going over some off-season moves the Leafs could do. Again, if it were me, this is what I would be doing if I was the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Let's talk a little bit more about the season before we get into all of that. Honestly, I thought they were going to be realistically on the outside looking in, maybe wild card spot, maybe third in the Atlantic Division. They are so far from that. And it's going to be hard for them to bounce back. Crazier things have happened, so I don't know if I'd put them out quite yet. But right now it is Monday, March 2nd, 2026. The trade deadline is on March 6th. That is this Friday. So let's get into the moves. First up on the list, the Maple Leafs should trade Scott Laughton. Don't worry too much about the team he's going to or what they're getting back. Honestly, you never know. I kind of just did some thinking about all of this stuff, and this is kind of what I came up with, what I think would be fair. Let me know in the comments below if you think otherwise, or maybe if you want to agree with me, go ahead and let me know in the comments below. So yes, let's start us off. Scott Laughton to the Pittsburgh Penguins for a 2027 third and a 2026 2026 sixth round pick. Honestly, this works good for Pittsburgh. They just lost Sidney Crosby. He'll be out for another 3-ish weeks, I do believe. Or that's the timeline they provided for him. I think this would add good depth to them. I'm, again, not going to worry too much about what the other team would look like. Kind of just looking at what the Leafs could get back. Coming back to the Leafs, a third and a sixth round pick. The years do matter. And you'll see kind of later in the video why that is. Again, I think Kyle Dubas being the GM of the Pittsburgh Penguins, I think he is willing to move picks, and this seems like kind of a deal that Dubas would make. Second move I'd make if I were the Leafs at the deadline is trading Calle Jarnkrok, oddly enough, back to Seattle. And in exchange, they would get a 2027 fifth round pick, as well as a 2026 seventh round pick. I don't think you can get too much more back for him. I think Seattle being a team contending for a playoff spot, this is some good depth for them. And again, around the deadline, teams love to move picks. So this is kind of something I think would be realistic for the Leafs. If they do get something like this, it would be a pretty good return. Again, I think he might be worth it. Playoff experience with Toronto, with Nashville. So, again, yeah, I think this would be a good deal for the Leafs. All right, the third trade on the list is Bobby McMann to the LA Kings. In exchange, the Leafs get Alex Turcotte and a 2026 second round pick. I think Bobby McMahon is worth it. I think the LA Kings losing Adrian Kempe, in the Olympics kind of does hurt their top six, and I think McMahon could be a middle six player for LA, especially if they want to add something else. And I think this is a good return for them. For the Leafs, they get Turcotte, who is a bottom six player. Looking at his stats, and they get a decent pick in McMahon. Not a first like some others were saying. I think that's a little too unrealistic for Bobby McMahon. I don't think he's that good. He had a breakout 20-goal season last year, I believe. Honestly, he's probably hovering around that. If he's having a solid year, anywhere from between 15 to 20. I think this is a pretty good return for the Leafs. They get a young not really prospect, but a young player in Turcotte, who I believe is 25 years old, 24, somewhere around there. And they get some draft capital in return. And so the final trade I think the Leafs should make on deadline day is Oliver Ekman-Larsson to the New York Islanders in exchange for Carson Soucy, a 2027 second round pick, a 2026 third round pick, as well as a 2026 fifth round pick. The reason this trade looks good for the Islanders is they're in the playoff hunt. They'd be getting Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who's won a Stanley Cup, who has a very good deal to him, someone they can use in the top 4 this year, and then someone they can keep around and help. It can help Matthew Schaefer develop a little bit. Probably just a good player for Schaefer to be around. The reason the Leafs would be getting Carson Soucy back is Carson Soucy makes $3.25 million this year, and Ekman-Larsson is making 3.5. Honestly, you gotta bring some cap back. I tried to keep it realistic. This is the sort of trade I think the Leafs could make with Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Again, I don't think a first round pick is very feasible for him. He's a good player, but I think it's more realistic if they get some early mid-round picks back for him. And the reason the fifth is tacked on there is because they're taking on Carson Soucy. This is what it would look like if they made those deals at the deadline with their draft capital. In 2026, they would have 8 picks total. In 2027, they'd have 9 picks total. Honestly, this is what they need to do. They just need to bring as much draft capital as they can, not only to draft players, but to be able to turn that draft capital into other players when the time is right, when they need to add pieces again. And I think these 4 trades, especially at the deadline, would bring in some much needed draft capital. Again, you have to remember the Leafs have been really, really good recently with their mid-round draft picks. So Nyes, he was I believe a second rounder or a third rounder, somewhere in there. Robertson, the same thing. Cowan, he was a stretch as a first rounder, probably would have been a second rounder had they taken him there. There's a number of other good players they've done this exact thing with. So I think that's kind of, if you're the Leafs, don't focus on quality of draft picks, focus on quantity of draft picks, and just try to bring in as many pieces as you can. Again, I think these 4 trades would do just that for them. Now this is where things start to get crazy. This is kind of where the realism aspect of this video kind of takes a turn. I don't know what they're going to do. Again, this is what I think they should do. And this is the trade. William Nylander, Vyacheslav Pieska, John Prokop, and Harry Nancy to the San Jose Sharks in exchange for Michael Misa, Shakir Mukhamadullin, a 2027 first round pick, a 2028 second round pick. This is a trade I think they should make right off the bat, right as soon as trading opens around the draft. Either a day before the draft or whatever, around draft day. This is a trade they should make. Moving Nylander, he's a player they can get a lot for, and this trade might not look like it, but I think it would be tough to get Misa from the Sharks. So you have to give up something to get something. I think Misa would be a little bit backlogged with the Sharks. He might fit into their top 6 eventually, but right now as it stands, you've got Celebrini, and you've got Will Smith, and you've got William Eklund, among a couple of the prospects they might have there or float around there. I think bringing a Nylander for them would bring in a surefire top line player to play beside Macklin. And I think it's just time for a change of scenery with him. Again, Nylander does have a no move. So you'd have to get him to waive it. This is all hypothetical, but you have to get him to waive it. And I think getting Pieska back, Prokop, and Nancy. Pieska's just a depth goaltender. I have another trade later on in this video. You'll see why I'd be willing to give up Pieska here. If you follow the Leafs, you know they have goaltending depth and a ton of it. So moving one here to the Sharks, it just gives the Sharks more depth. Prokop and Nancy. Nancy's been a breakout player for the Owen Sound attack. I think 52 points for them so far this season. He was a 5th round pick of the Leafs last year. I think he is a prospect that's going to be kind of sneaky. I think he will develop to be a good prospect. But again, you got to give up something to get something, and I think this trade would benefit both teams. Again, Nylander has no move, so does he want to go to the Sharks? I think he might, because they're a young and up-and-coming team, but you never know. On to the next move. Alright, this move would be sending Morgan Rielly. Again, he has a no movement clause, no trade clause, whatever you want to call it. It's full clause, he can say no to anything. Again, this is just hypothetical. It'd be sending Morgan Rielly to the Nashville Predators. In exchange, the Leafs would get Jack Mathieu, a 2027 third round pick from Colorado, and a 2027 third round pick from Vegas. Morgan Rielly has been very, very disappointing. I think a fresh start with a team like this, where they're interested in bringing in old players. They brought in Stamkos. They've brought in Jonathan Marchessault. They've brought in Bunting. Older, veteran-style players. They still kind of want to make a run. I think this kind of move would be right up the alley for the Predators there. And the Leafs, they'd be getting a sneaky defenseman back in Mathieu. He is a, from all the scouting reports I've read, he's like a Tanev. He blocks shots. But he's also mobile. He's like a Troy Stetcher. He can move the puck. That's what they need on the back end. And he's a pretty big defenseman as well. He's got some weight behind him. Probably not afraid to hit. So this would be an interesting deal. I think it looks worse than it actually is. But also Morgan Rielly hasn't been good. A lot of the players that you guys think of when it comes to Leafs trading players, they haven't been good this year, so they don't have value. This would be kind of probably a not liked move, but I think would help out the Leafs in the long run. Alright, this move would be sending Matias Maccelli over to the Vancouver Canucks in exchange for prospect forward Ulrichsen. I believe his first name is Victor. I could be wrong. I did my research on him. I just forget as I'm recording this voiceover. Ulrichsen is a big forward. He's like 6'6". It's more beef the Leafs could add into their bottom six. I think this is a very good hockey trade and something the Canucks will be interested in. They're kind of missing a second line winger, third line winger. They have guys. They're showing rebuild right now. They got rid of Quinn Hughes this year, gave him up to the Minnesota Wild. They got back Zeev Buium and a couple other prospects. I think adding in someone like Michelli, who's not super old, has some upside, played all right for the Leafs. Honestly, this would just be to capitalize on his value. I think the only thing you can do is a trade like this, a hockey trade, if you will, a 1-for-1. And Ulrichsen is younger, way younger, so I think this trade would be beneficial to both teams. Kind of give the Canucks a player back they can use, and for the Leafs, it would just be trying to capitalize on the value that they created with Michelli, because he was a lot worse in value rating before they brought him on. I think he's definitely developed a little bit of that trade value. This might be something. I don't know how the Canucks value, obviously, Ulrichsen. If you're a Canuck fan, let me know in the comments below if this would be a deal you'd be interested in making. I kind of just was scrolling through their depth chart and I picked this guy. So this is a trade I think the Leafs need to make next year in the offseason. They have goaltending depth. They have Woll, Stolarz, and Hildeby. This trade will be sending Joseph Woll to the New Jersey Devils in exchange for a 2028 second-round pick and a goaltending prospect named Trent Bennett. Bennett is like 6'6", so he's another big goalie, someone they can kind of develop to replace Stolarz when it's time for him to go, when it's time for him to retire. This trade looks real good for both parties. The Devils get a goaltender when he's healthy, is probably at least a top 15, top 20 goaltender in the league. Definitely can put up some good numbers, again, when he's healthy. They have Markstrom and they have Jake Allen already. Markstrom is like 36, so for the Devils to get this kind of goaltender to play in tandem with Jake Allen, this would be interesting. And I think, again, it would help out both parties. I think you send Joseph Woll away and capitalize on the value you created with him after drafting him, and free up some playing time for Dennis Hildeby. Alright, after all that, this is what I would make the lines. If those moves were done, this is what I'd kind of have the idea for the lines of for 2026-2027. First line left wing, empty. They'd need to find someone to play with Matthews and to play with Easton Cowan. I think Cowan can take steps forward next year if you give him the time. They've been really weird with him as of recent. I don't know if it's just to get other guys in the lineup to show the league what they have before you trade them. But yeah, they've been really weird. They've scratched him a little bit. He did play the most recent game, and he might be playing right now, actually. They're playing a game right now against the Philadelphia Flyers as I speak. But yes, you'd need to find a top line left winger. Your second line would consist of Matthew Knies, Michael Misa, Nick Robertson. Robertson kind of reminds me of Zach Hyman, just hard on pucks in the corner. He's been good when they've used him. He did want to trade before. Now I think that would change if you give him bona fide top 6 time. And Matthew Knies, again, you could play him with Matthews. They haven't really done that this year. They've kind of used him more on the power play. And then Michael Misa would be the replacement for John Tavares. Misa would come in, and he'd immediately be the second line center behind Austin Matthews. Obviously going to replace Matthews in the future, but for the Lions next year, it's a young centerman who has a lot to learn. He can learn from John Tavares, and he'd have two solid wingers on his wings. Matthew Knies would be that much better next year, and Nick Robertson, I think, again, if you give him consistent playing time, he can be the guy you're looking for, especially because the way these lines are set up, it looks like they'd be taking a step back. The third line is Max Domi, John Tavares, and Steven Lorentz. Honestly, the bottom six is interchangeable. Really, like, they could go anywhere. I think Tavares would stay as your third line center in this case. But you could do Domi fourth line with Joshua Lorentz. You could do, again, Domi third line. I would keep him out of the middle of the ice. He looked terrible when they used him there this year. And then the fourth line would be Dakota Joshua, Alex Turcotte, and again, you got to find someone there, whether it be a prospect they already have, or go out and sign free agent depth. Nothing too spectacular. Turcotte, again, is interchangeable with anybody in the bottom six. In my opinion, he could be on your third line with Tavares on the wing. He could be your fourth line center. It really doesn't matter where you use him. I think he'd just be good bottom six depth. You add some offensive punch. Looks like he's a solid two-way forward for the Kings, so that is what I would do there. And this is what I would do for the defense. Your top line left defenseman was Morgan Rielly. You need to find a replacement for him there. I'd still have Carlo up there. I think Carlo is a good defender when he's healthy. I think not playing playoff minutes for the Leafs this year, giving him that extra time to heal, I think he could come back and be what you need him to be. I don't think he's going to be what you traded him for when you gave up Fraser Minton, but I do think that he can be serviceable on that top line. Again, you have to find somebody to play with him. Probably some sort of offensive-based defenseman of some sort. Again, I don't know what the free agent market's going to look like. You can come back and look at this video after free agency or during free agency and kind of fill in who you want there. But getting rid of Nylander and Rielly and Joseph Woll bring back a lot of cap space. So honestly, they can really put whatever they want into money-wise on the back end. The second line, I do Jake McCabe and Shakir Mukhamadullin. Mukhamadullin is mobile defensive defenseman. I kind of get the vibe. I haven't watched much of his hockey, but through reading what I've read and seeing what I've been seeing, he plays like Ben Danford, if that makes any sense. Ben Danford is a mobile defensive defenseman as well. Defense first, block shots, and can break the puck out. So Mukhamadullin, give him some time on that top six. Penalty kill time, maybe power play time. I'm not too sure how he shoots the puck. I think that would be the benefit if he does shoot. Again, I don't watch a lot of him. I just threw him into the Nylander trade there as a piece. And the final pairing, the third pairing, would be Ben Danford and Troy Setcher. I think Ben Danford is ready to go in a minimal role. I don't think he's obviously a top line defenseman yet, but I think he'd be okay if you brought him in and played him some third line minutes, much like you did Easton Cowan this year. Ben Danford doesn't have to play all 82 next year. You could play him 50. You could play Jack Mathieu, a little bit as well, and Tanev. I think what they should do, because they have Tanev, is roll 2 extra defensemen and constantly be changing them to save them, to literally save them from getting hurt. I think that should be their plan. And then in the net there, we have Anthony Stolarz and Dennis Hildeby. I think Hildeby can really learn from Stolarz and grow as a goalie. They're pretty similar in height, so I think again he's someone that can learn from Stolarz for when it's his time to take over the net. I think give him tons of games next year, he can really develop into a starting goaltender. I don't know if he'd be, you know, top 5 goalie in the league necessarily, but I think he could definitely get into that top 10, top 15 goaltender for you in the future. Some other notes that I've made. After all the trades, after everything is said and done, the Leafs would bring in a total of 8 picks in 2026, 12 picks in 2027, and 8 picks in 2028. I think that's bringing in lots of draft capital, and it's giving the younger guys a chance to play. You know, I think, again, back to where we were in the beginning of the video, I think you need to make those moves at the deadline. 100%. I think you have guys that need playing time. You have defensemen that need to be looked at in the NHL. You have forwards that could come up, forwards that have been up. Jacob Quenlin being one of them. He was up and they didn't use him, right? So I think you have guys that are ready and waiting, ready to flourish into possibly another Bobby McMann. You have to remember, McMann wasn't drafted. He was developed through the Newfoundland Growlers and through the Toronto Marlies in the AHL. So thank you for watching the video. If you did enjoy, don't forget to like and comment, and please let me know what you think of this. Again, by no means am I an NHL general manager. I'm just a guy that watches hockey. And these are kind of my thoughts. So let me know if you agree or disagree. I'm open to any conversation in the comments below. One more thing of note before we end this video, I just want to give a quick update on the channel. I have stepped away recently, just for the moment. The Olympics kind of caught a lot of my attention. On top of that, I am a college student right now too, so school has been pretty crazy. But I'm looking to upload another Arizona Coyotes FHM 12 video this weekend. I want to get back into the full swing of things, and I have some ideas for new games for the channel. That's probably not going to happen really until the end of my schooling, when my the end of this year for schooling, when my schedule kind of opens up a little bit more. I'll have more time. I want to get into live streaming, and the new game is something I want to live stream. I think it would flow better if it was in a live stream. I think I can do more if it's in a live stream. It'd be really hard to edit, but I think it'd be a really fun add to the channel. And for the Arizona Coyotes, I want to get that done before the playoffs. I think we're going to keep the consistent, or I guess somewhat consistent upload schedule. I want to at least do one every weekend. Probably Saturday or, well, obviously Saturday or Sunday. Depending on my schedule, that's kind of when that would look, or that's where that would look to be. But yes, I want to try to get that done before the NHL playoffs. I believe it's like mid-April. I want to kind of finish that up. Then maybe we can start a Maple Leafs FHM run in the summer. Have some fun with that. I think that is something good for videos. But yeah, I have tons of other ideas for games and content to bring to the channel. I kind of want to do more stuff like this video as well. So yeah, give me your guys' best advice in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video.